We have an ABC News exclusive for everyone. We told you the tragic story of that Detroit bus driver who died days after making a video expressing his frustration over a passenger who did not cover her mouth while coughing on the bus. Well, now that man's family is sounding the alarm that some might not be taking the pandemic seriously. TJ Holmes has that story for us. Good morning, TJ.
Hey, Robin, good morning to you. And this was a heartbreaking conversation I had with his family yesterday via video conference. And this is a family now that's trying to plan a funeral. Remember, he started getting sick just days after posting that video, venting about people not taking the safety measures seriously. And now his family believes that one particular person's careless act may have cost him his life.
We are out across this country as well tonight, where they are seeing cases growing. In Michigan, the third highest toll, more than 700 dead. We reported on the Detroit bus driver who spoke out about passengers not covering when they cough. That driver then dying days later from the virus. Tonight, hear the plea from his family to stay home if you're sick. And this evening, from Michigan to Louisiana to California, the faces, the stories of the patients fighting this. Here again, ABC's Matt Gutman tonight.
We out here as public workers doing our job.
The family of Detroit bus driver Jason Hargrove is grieving tonight and pleading with the public.
This is not a game out here. This is not a joke out here. I am missing my husband. My children don't have their dad anymore. This is serious.
Hargrove's Facebook posting about a passenger coughing on him went viral, and days later, he got sick.
For you to get on the bus and stand on the bus and cough several times, that lets me know that some folks don't care.
PalmTran bus drivers head back to the negotiating table with Palm Beach County tomorrow. The drivers say they want hazard pay for working during the pandemic. Contact 5 investigative reporter Michael Butchner reports the union claims COVID-19 is scaring some drivers.
I ride the bus every day.
Wearing a mask, Esmeen Sharp waits for the number 2 bus.
We are trying to prevent the spread of the virus.
And she isn't taking any chances.
We just have to comply with the rules and the regulation.
They did not come here to die. They came here to do a job and have a career.
Dwight Mattingly, who represents PalmTran operators as a local union president, says a total of 8 PalmTran and PalmTran Connection operators have already tested positive for COVID-19. He believes all operators should receive hazard pay.
Those that work on the front lines, we've been there for them and put ourselves at risk.
We believe that all of our employees have been heroes in our community.
Todd Bonlaren is an assistant county administrator and negotiating with Mattingly.
As we provided some compensatory time for our employees who've worked during that period of up to 32 hours of time. We think that's something fair that the ATU should agree to. We've offered that to them.
Mattingly told Contact 5 he believes PalmTran is taking the COVID threat seriously by implementing health checks for drivers, sanitizing buses, distributing PPE, rear entry and exit on buses, and of course requiring masks while on board.
So the challenge is being able to make sure the passengers keep those masks on and wear them when they board the bus.
And when that doesn't happen, Mattingly says operators are instructed to offer a mask, contact dispatch, and continue in service.
Well, while others are sheltering in place and you have to go to work and you don't feel safe, well, here at CBS 46, we're working to bring you information on what you should do to request hazard pay. CBS 46's Haley Mason is talking to a labor attorney who has a list of steps.
From sanitation workers to grocery store packers, I've been talking to people who are afraid to lose their jobs, but also afraid to go to work during this pandemic. They're considered America's essential workers, sanitation teams picking up hazardous trash, and even warehouse workers trying to get you groceries. But behind the walls of work, they're secretly calling us for help, concerned that they're not safe and should be getting hazard pay.
We've been moving record numbers of groceries and produce for Kroger stores, working 70 hours mandated a week and putting our health and our lives in jeopardy.
This person on the phone works for Americold, which distributes groceries for Kroger.
We haven't got any face masks, haven't got any gloves, and we just now started doing temperature checks at the door.
That change came after someone tested positive for coronavirus. They say the problem is their union pushed out this notice that Kroger is offering hazard pay, but the warehouse employees say they're not included in that deal.
They tell us we're doing a great job, we're setting records, we're working hard, they're proud of us, but they're not trying to reflect that in any kind of compensation.
I reached out to labor lawyer Ed Buckley, who says no one is entitled to hazard pay, but they can negotiate it with their employer.
I think that what it is important for these workers to do is to point out to the employer in writing the dangerous circumstances of their workplace so that the employer knows that they're making a record that the workplace is dangerous.
He says unions should also help if there's a partnership.
If you're in a union, then you would go to your union steward. If you are not, then yes, you can try and negotiate that individually. I always believe there is strength in numbers.
Kroger sent me a list of safety measures they've been taking, but they say the distribution workers are managed by a third party. I reached out to Americold, and I'll post their statement on our website when it comes in. Next hour, we have tips on negotiating hazard pay. Reporting in Atlanta, Haley Mason, CBS 46 News.
And we know this is a time that is just full of uncertainty, not just for people who have lost their job. Many essential workers feel like they're taking a big risk going to work.
But 41 Action News reporter Charlie Keegan here to help us on the 41 Action News. We're here to help you on the road to recovery. And in a brand new rebound report this morning, reporter Charlie Keegan explains which essential workers qualify for hazard pay and how it works. Charlie.
Brian, hazard pay is basically a raise that you get at your job when it comes with an added danger, like the possibility of getting COVID-19 right now, for example. But there's no federal standard or obligation requirement that private employers offer hazard pay, which is why right now a lot of unions that represent nurses and healthcare workers and first responders are asking employers for hazard pay. I also found this DoorDash driver here in Kansas City who started a petition online asking DoorDash to pay their delivery drivers, their dashers, a little extra. DoorDash, for its part, got back to us saying it's doing other things to help keep their drivers healthy and safe during all this. I did find there are a lot of grocery stores in our area offering hazard pay throughout this pandemic. A lot of them might give it a different name, though, calling it something like appreciation pay. Lindsay?
Wow. So how much more money are these employees earning in hazard pay, Charlie?
Well, it's no standard, Lindsay. It all kind of varies. I know Whole Foods, for example, is giving employees $2 extra an hour, but Hy-Vee is giving employees a 10% bonus at the end of the month. Price Chopper is doing a little combination. Bonuses for some people, increase hourly wages for others. So it really runs the gamut. Reporting live, I'm Charlie Keegan, 41 Action News Today.
May 13, 2020, a number of policymakers have expressed interest in providing essential workers at risk of exposure to COVID-19 with additional compensation, or hazard pay. The Health and Economic Recovery Omnibus Emergency Solutions, HEROES, Act, H.R. 6800, introduced on May 12, 2020, would create a fund for pandemic premium pay for essential workers. This insight highlights some of the policy considerations should a hazard pay policy be pursued, as well as federal government options for supporting hazard pay. What is hazard pay? Hazard pay is a type of premium pay for individuals performing work that involves hazardous duty or physical hardship. Hazard pay may be provided to compensate workers for additional risks and to incentivize workers to work in jobs with potentially dangerous conditions. The Fair Labor Standards Act, FLSA, which is the main federal law that establishes wage and hour standards for most private and public sector employers, e.g., minimum wage and overtime pay, does not regulate the provision of hazard pay. While hazard pay is available for some federal workers, it is not mandated for private sector workers. Financial support for essential workers. Policy considerations. Federal government support of hazard pay could compensate individuals who have been exposed to additional risk while providing essential services. However, there are a number of questions that arise when considering which employees are essential, and the amount and duration of any hazard pay provided. May 13, 2020, a number of policymakers have expressed interest in providing essential workers at risk of exposure to COVID-19 with additional compensation, or hazard pay. The Health and Economic Recovery Omnibus Emergency Solutions, HEROES, Act, H.R. 6800, introduced on May 12, 2020, would create a fund for pandemic premium pay for essential workers. This insight highlights some of the policy considerations should a hazard pay policy be pursued, as well as federal government options for supporting hazard pay. What is hazard pay? Hazard pay is a type of premium pay for individuals performing work that involves hazardous duty or physical hardship. Hazard pay may be provided to compensate workers for additional risks and to incentivize workers to work in jobs with potentially dangerous conditions. The Fair Labor Standards Act, FLSA, which is the main federal law that establishes wage and hour standards for most private and public sector employers, e.g., minimum wage and overtime pay, does not regulate the provision of hazard pay. While hazard pay is available for some federal workers, it is not mandated for private sector workers. Financial support for essential workers. Policy considerations. Federal government support of hazard pay could compensate individuals who have been exposed to additional risk while providing essential services. However, there are a number of questions that arise when considering which employees are essential, and the amount and duration of any hazard pay provided. As discussed in our last meeting, we will be collaborating with East Bay DSA and they will be joining the meeting at 6:20 p.m. Please share this with any ATU 192 members that you believe would be interested in joining the fight and sharing the workload. The Hazard Pay Coalition is a sanctioned committee in conjunction with the Democratic Socialist of America, East Bay, to ensure that ATU 192 membership gets compensated fairly for putting their health on the line as essential workers.